This is A&P Lab 2 Part 3. We're going to look at applications of pH. So in my test tubes here, I have 1 molar hydrochloric acid. I've got about 2 milliliters in each test tube. And then I have 3 different types of antacids. I have Alka-Seltzer, Tums, and Rolaids, and I've got approximately 1/4 of a tablet for each one of those. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pH paper here, which is going to change color based on pH. And I'm just going to dip this in one of my test tubes here and get a little sample of the hydrochloric acid. And then I'm going to look at what color that changes and compare it to my key here. And so I can see that when I look at this hot pink color here, that the initial pH of my hydrochloric acid is 1. So you need to record that on your data sheet. Now I'm going to take my antacids and put them into each of my test tubes and let them sit there for about 3 minutes, and we'll see what happens. You can see that we get a reaction. You see with the Alka-Seltzer, this is the Tums, and that's the Rolaids. I'll shake that one around a little bit. So now I'm going to let this sit for about 3.5 minutes. Then I'll come back and test the pH again. My antacids have been sitting in the hydrochloric acid for about 3.5 minutes. So now I'll go back and retest the pH of each one of these. I'll start with the Alka-Seltzer first, and I'm just going to tilt my test tube, get a little sample on there, compare it to my colors, and this looks like for the Alka-Seltzer, I've got about a pH of 5. So for the Alka-Seltzer, it went from 1 to 5. Now for the Tums, so we're going to ignore the pink on the side because I think I still had some neutralized hydrochloric acid there. So we'll go with this kind of color down here, this orange color. Looks to be somewhere between a 4 and 5. We can call that about a 4.5 for the Tums. And lastly, I'll check the Rolaids. And the Rolaids really didn't dissolve at all in the hydrochloric acid, so we still have a pH of 1 for the Rolaids. You need to record each of these in your data table. The last part of your data table asks you to list the active ingredients for each type of antacid that we used. So the first one, the Alka-Seltzer, here are the active ingredients for the Alka-Seltzer. For the Tums, active ingredient there. And then Rolaids, active ingredient there. And you'll use that to complete your data table, and you also need to answer the questions.